Hello everyone, welcome to my Opus 18 Resurgence of Power spoiler video, and I've got a card that really makes you think because it doesn't combo with much particularly, but that's what I'm all about. It's about trying to find the weird and interesting ways to be able to combo cards with things. So sometimes it takes a little bit of time to think about how you can use these cards and where they may be applicable, but I think I've got a few options for you, and they're all very much in the same vein, but you know, you get cards like that sometimes where they really only fit a certain circumstance or deck type. Anyway, the deck that I received as my Opus 18 spoiler is no other than Kites. There's a 4 CP wind backup with the text, when Kites enters the field, reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, add 1 wind card among them to your hand, and return the other cards to the bottom of your deck in any order. If it's a category 12 character, also activate Kites. And then you can put Kites into the break zone to choose up to 2 characters and activate them. So, I'll be perfectly honest with you, it's not an amazing card. It only reveals 3, as most cards reveal 4 or 5, and it does get you activate if you have a category 12, if you reveal a category 12 character, but it has to be a wind category 12 character, so yeah, they're pretty limited, and most of them are Balthier, Fran, or Varn. So obviously this is going to fit more of a Sky Pirate type deck, and one of the main reasons that Sky Pirates were so strong was because of the 1 CP Kites forward. So really this card does not take that card's place because the other one is far more effective at protecting your cards. So I don't really focus so much on the getting a category 12 character and activating Kites because it's pretty limited, and the resources you would have to invest in making sure there is a category 12 character there would be, you know, not particularly worth it unless it's like your win condition. So I focused more on what the Kites is as a character, and being able to just dull and put them into the break zone to activate 2 characters, which actually isn't too bad. For just a dull and a break, I don't think that's the worst. If you can get a card off of Kites, so in mono wind, you should be fine, and then you can dull and break him. He has recurred most of his cost, so it's not too bad. So the first thing I'm linking with is Penelo. So you can play Penelo onto the field to search yourself a Sky Pirate out of your hand, so you can then search Kites. You can then play Kites onto the field to then get yourself another wind character to hand, hopefully. Now that is a total of 8 CP, not including the 2 cards from hand. I mean, technically you would have searched Kites, so it's only the 1 card from hand, but that's still a really heavy investment for just 2 backups. So the chances are you play Penelo with maybe a couple of backups already, and then you would play Kites later as well. Or maybe you just play Penelo early, get Kites, and then later you will then play Kites once you've got a couple more backups down. Thing is, in wind, there's actually a couple of other backups that you might want to prefer with Penelo, but either way, it is still an option. Penelo. So the cost for Penelo's ability, which is normally 5, is reduced by 1 for each Job Sky Pirate other than Penelo you control, and you get to select one of the 3 following options. So having Kites on the backup line means that that will also reduce Penelo's cost, and I think in terms of backups in with the Job Sky Pirate, we now have Kites, the Fire Varn from Opus, I think it's 17, and then there is, I think it's Philo, who is a wind or a water generator in wind. So you can potentially get Penelo's cost down to only 2 with only your backups, which is quite nice. But again, the problem is that she chooses Job Sky Pirate forward to make it so it can be chosen by opponent's abilities, which is really nice for protecting the 1 CP Kites. And then similarly, choose 1 forward, lose a 3000 power, or draw 1 card. It could still work depending on the way you want to build the deck, but ultimately I feel that the other Kites are still better. But either way, being able to get Penelo's cost down with only Penelo and then a couple other backups down isn't too bad. Theodore. So this is where we focus on maybe more of the reactivation with Kites' effect. So dull, put him in the break zone to activate 2 characters. So you can play Theodore onto the field using only your backups, and then when Theodore enters the field, you may dull 3 active category 4 characters you control. When you do so, choose character of 4 or more, break it. So what you can do with this is you can play Theodore onto the field with only backups, and Theodore can be maybe your only 4 character or 4 forward on the field. What you can then do is Theodore's effect will stack. You can then on the stack, maybe you've got 5 backups, so Kites is the one last backup. You dull Kites, put them into the break zone to activate 2 characters. They could be 2 4 backups, which will activate, and then you can dull those 2 4 backups and Theodore to then break a character of 4 or more on your opponent's field. And then at the beginning of your attack phase, during each of your turns, activate all the category 4 forwards you control. So if you're playing him on your main phase 1, then when you go to attack phase, Theodore will reactivate anyway, so it's not too bad. Andrea Rodea. So you can dull 2 active category 7 characters, and all the forwards your opponent controls will lose their abilities until the end of the turn. So it could be that Andrea, and let's go with Kyrie or Chocobo Sam, Madam M. There's a fair few options. They could be dull, but you've got kites open. Your opponent maybe goes into main phase and they want to do something. You then respond with kites to activate Andrea Rodea and another 7 character. Then you can dull them to make it so all your opponent's forwards lose their abilities, which is quite nice. Or you can activate Andrea Rodea and a card named Cloud, and then you can dull Andrea Rodea, put them into the break zone, and dull a card named Cloud to then choose one forward, put it at the bottom of his owner's deck, which is a quite strong ability, to be honest. Lillicet. So yeah, anyone that knows me is going to see where this has been going anyway, but dancers. So you can use kites to reactivate some dancers. So you've got the dull 1 dance, dull 1 active job dancer or name dancer, choose one forward, dull it, so you can do that twice, which might be nice. And good thing about kites is you can activate characters, so you can do it with your backups as well if you want. You can dull a total of 4 active job dancers, so maybe you've only got a couple open because maybe you need to play Lilith out onto the field to be able to use her ability. You've now dulled too many dancers. You can use kites to then reactivate 2 of them, and then dull 4 dancers in total to use Lilith's effect. Or you can reactivate your opponent's forwards with kites, because kites is just put kites into the break zone, choose up to 2 characters, activate them. Now you need to be mindful of this, because ultimately if your opponent is running something like Auron, then that means that he will have to be one of those targets. However, if you want to use Lilith's effects, she will deal 8k to all active forwards, so that includes your own as well. But if your opponent doesn't have any active, or the forwards you want to kill aren't active, you can use kites to reactivate them, at which point Lilith will then deal them 8k. And finally, Bismarck, just to be able to, let's say you dull a few forwards, to be able to do 3 pings of 2k to forwards. You then put kites into the break zone to then reactivate Bismarck and another wind forward, and then do 2 more pings to kill something. Pretty simple, but that's all you really need in wind, to be honest. Penelo again. So at the end of each of your turns, you get to deal 1,000 damage to all. Can't speak. 1,000 damage for each card you have cast this turn to all the forwards your opponent controls, and then you can dull an active job dancer or card name dancer other than Penelo. Choose one forward, its power becomes 4,000 till the end of the turn. So you can utilize that with something like Bismarck, so you get to do little pings, and then you can dull your dancers to set their power to your opponent's forward's power to 4,000, using kites to be able to reactivate either the forwards to be able to get more pings with Bismarck, or more dancers to be able to set more of your opponent's forwards to 4,000. So yeah, either way, it's a nice way just to be able to kill some things. If all you've got is Penelo and Bismarck on the field, you can say dull a backup dancer, set something to 4,000 power, dull Penelo, dull Bismarck, and then you kill that forward, and then you can use kites and reactivate Penelo and Bismarck again, and maybe attack with them or something like that. Either way, yeah. And that is kites. They were the first few little things that just came up into my mind, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of other things that it can combo with. But like I said before, it doesn't replace the forward kites, but it has a different place in a deck, to be honest. I don't know if I'd really put it in a Sky Pirate deck, unless it were utilizing maybe something like the Penelo forward, just to get her cost down really, really cheap. But then I maybe would prefer to run the 1 CP kites, because he can protect her and she can protect him. So it becomes a bit of a which ones your opponent want to kill, because the other one's going to be saving it. But yeah, I still think he's a decent backup, and he has some really cool combos if you take the time to actually think about it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you so much for Square Enix for allowing me to have these continued spoilers. They're really, really fun to just kind of knuckle down and think about. And I'm sure in Opus 18 there will be more cards that kites will work with really well anyway. So, I'm working with a limited pool of ideas at the moment. I say limited, we've got 17 sets, 17 and a half kind of, but either way, some really, really cool cards. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, be lucky, and I'll see you in the next video.